Hi, Joe Alton MD here, also known as Dr. Bones of the survival website doomandbloom.net, co-author of the award-winning 4th edition of the Survival Medicine Handbook, the essential guide for when help is not on the way, plus designer of quality medical kits at altonfirstaid.com. Today we're going to talk about a topic rarely on a survivalist's mind. You might be surprised to find out that an effective survival medic requires a working knowledge of dental problems. Few who are otherwise medically prepared, however, devote much time to learning about dental issues and procuring dental supplies. Now you might ask, why bother? Well, poor oral health can negatively impact the work efficiency of members of your group in survival settings. It could even lead to serious illness. When your people are not at 100% effectiveness, chances for survival decrease. Anyone who has had to work with a bad toothache can tell you that their concentration and productivity are severely affected. Indeed, their mind probably focuses only on the pain. The medic must learn proper dental hygiene, how to evaluate dental disease, and when necessary, perform dental procedures to keep people at top efficiency. If your concern is a few days without power due to a storm, perhaps you shouldn't worry much about the risk of dental problems. A long-term event, however, is an entirely different story. History tells us that problems with teeth take up a significant portion of the medic's time if dentists aren't available, especially in a long-term survival setting. Medics find themselves in the role of dentist as often as that of doctor or nurse. Of course, these duties are best in the hands of a dental professional. Sure, of course, right? Unfortunately, you're not going to have such a person in your group. A survival medic's philosophy should be that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. This thinking is especially apt when it comes to your teeth. By enforcing good dental hygiene, you're going to save your loved ones a lot of pain and yourself a lot of headaches. Here's some info that'll help you deal with some basic issues off the grid. First, you should learn something about dental anatomy. The anatomy of a tooth, luckily, is very simple. The part of the tooth that you see above the gum line is called the crown. Hidden below the gum is the root, which resides in a bony socket known as the alveolus. Teeth are anchored to alveolar bone with ligaments, just like there are ligaments holding together the knee or shoulder. Teeth are composed of different materials. Enamel, the hard white external covering of the tooth crown. Enamel is mostly made of calcium phosphate and is the armor that protects deeper structures. Dentin, this is firm yellowish material underneath the enamel. It's composed of many firm microscopic tubes. When enamel is lost, heat or cold travels through these tubes to cause sensitivity. And pulp, the softer tissue in the center surrounded by the dentin. The pulp contains blood vessels and nerve endings and is considered the living part of the tooth. When the nerve dies, the tooth dies. A human adult mouth has 32 teeth, most of which, but not all, replace baby teeth by age 13. They are comprised of incisors, 8 total, the middlemost 4 teeth in the upper and lower jaws. Canines, the pointed teeth just outside the incisors, sometimes called cuspids. Premolars, 8 total of those. Teeth between the canines and the molars, sometimes called bicuspids. And molars, 8 total. Flat teeth that are in the rear of the mouth. Then, of course, you have wisdom teeth, or third molars. There are 4 of them total, and these teeth erupt later at about age 18 or so. In normal times, they're often surgically removed to prevent displacement of other teeth due to crowding or impaction, which can lead to pain or infection. Different teeth have different purposes. Incisors and canines are for cutting, while molars are for grinding. Your mouth is full of bacteria, chock full of them as a matter of fact. Most dental disease is caused by it, but did you know that there's good and bad oral bacteria? The medic wants to decrease the bad bacterial population to reduce the chance of developing dental and gum disease. What can bad bacteria cause? Tooth decay. Strains of certain bacteria feed on sugars and produce enamel-destroying acid, leading to cavities, also known as caries. Bad bacteria can also cause gum disease. Some bacterial species release toxins that cause inflammation. They can cause bleeding gums. They can cause tooth loss if left untreated. And even systemic issues. Chronic oral inflammation due to bad bacteria can enter the bloodstream and even damage the heart. Now, what does good bacteria do? It helps with immune defense. Helpful microbes crowd out harmful invaders and prevent them from taking hold. It also helps digestion. Bacteria in your saliva help break down food and absorb nutrients. And heart health. Beneficial oral bacteria convert dietary nitrates found in leafy greens into nitric oxide, which helps regulate blood pressure. A healthy balance can be achieved by eating fermented foods, whole grains, vegetables, and beans. Eating well and limiting sugars and starches, of course, isn't easy, however, when the you-know-what hits the fan. So how do you face this challenge? A daily brushing routine is essential, but at one point or another you're going to run out of toothbrushes. As an alternative, you can rub the teeth using a finger and a little toothpaste in a circular motion. This method will help long term. A clean cloth can also be utilized for the same purpose. Another option is to chew on the end of a live twig until it gets all bristly and use that with some campfire ash to clean teeth. Sweet gum, sweet birch, neem, and dogwood have been used in the past, but any live bendable twig will serve the purpose. Don't use deadwood, however. It falls apart in your mouth. You're not going to like it. Just score the bark off the end and chew until bristles form. A twig toothbrush can serve dual purposes in that the other end can be sharpened and used as a toothpick. Eventually, commercially made toothpaste will no longer be available and you're going to have to improvise. As I mentioned, campfire ash works, but it's gritty. Baking soda is an excellent alternative. It's inexpensive, available in bulk, and less abrasive to dental enamel than manufactured silica-based toothpaste. Some feel the taste is too salty, and in this case, you can add 1 or 2 drops of, let's say, peppermint oil. When I was growing up, we brushed our teeth by putting a little household 3% hydrogen peroxide on our toothbrushes and then dipping it into a small amount of baking soda. You get used to the taste. After meals and before going to bed, medics should encourage brushing or at least oral rinsing. This will decrease inflammation in the gums, foul breath, and the risk of infection. If antibacterial rinses aren't available, another effective and inexpensive option would be to use a solution made of equal parts water and 3% hydrogen peroxide. Swish it around for 1 or 2 minutes to obtain the full effect. Beware of higher concentrations of hydrogen peroxide, though, as these could burn the oral cavity. Salt water can also be made into a reasonable mouthwash. Take 8 ounces of warm water with 1 teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Use 2 to 3 times daily. And don't swallow it. Yuck. Many people swear by coconut oil as an option to decrease bacteria in and lower the risk of gingivitis or gum inflammation. Also helps with tooth decay. This method, known as oil pulling, is accomplished by oral swishing with a tablespoon of coconut oil. Oil is a fat. As bacterial walls have fatty substances in their membranes, they stick to each other. As the oil hits the teeth and gums, germs are picked up like a magnet attracts iron filings. The action of swishing, or pulling, extracts bacteria from crevices in the gums and teeth. Another method of preventing tooth decay is the use of dental floss. It can be inconvenient for some, but a lot of bacteria accumulate between teeth. Flossing not only dislodges microbes, but is also useful for removing foreign objects, such as food particles. Tie a simple knot in the floss if a particle is particularly difficult to remove. Some suggest 4 to 6 pound test fishing line as an option when all the floss runs out. Well, if you're going to use this route, use monofilament line only, which is the type that glides the most like regular dental floss. Avoid braided lines. In future videos, we'll talk about tooth decay and gum disease. How would you handle it off the grid? We'll also cover dental trauma and procedures along with many other survival medicine topics. You might find a topic that interests you in the hundreds of videos on this channel, podcasts like our Survival Medicine podcast on Spreaker, and in some of our over 1,500 articles at doomandbloom.net. This is Joe Alton, MD, that old Dr. Bones, wishing you the best of health in good times or bad. Thanks for watching.
Hi, Nurse Amy here. Just wanted to remind you guys not to forget to visit store.doomandbloom.net for all your holiday shopping, gifts for birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, any day actually. If you want to help somebody survive a first aid issue, make sure you go to store.doomandbloom.net.